Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
The Emirates detains more activists as crackdown on dissent continues. Israel orders the demolition of 8 Palestinian villages to make way for army training grounds. And Pakistan suspends NATO's supply route over security concerns. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
In the Emirates, the number of detained activists for reasons that are believed to be political has increased by 3 individuals over the past 3 days. This comes in the framework of an arrest campaign targeting a group of rights activists. And while Kuwaiti parliamentarian Mohammed al-Dalal condemned the arrest campaign in the Emirates, Human Rights Watch demanded the Emirati authorities reveal the reason behind the activists' arrests.
قضية اعتقال السلطات الإماراتية ناشطين ومدونين بتهم سياسية.
The Emirati authorities' arrests of activists and bloggers on political charges has once again highlighted the human rights violations in the United Arab Emirates. In the latest such development, Emirati security forces waged a wide-scale arrest campaign that targeted a number of rights activists amid a series of prosecutions that included activists and members of al-Islah, or reform group, that is tied to the Muslim Brotherhood.
وذكرت صحيفة الشاهد الإلكترونية الكويتية أن سلطات الإمارات اتهمت 40 كويتيا بينهم.
The Kuwaiti online newspaper al-Shahed said the Emirati authorities accused 40 Kuwaitis, among them 2 parliamentarians, political activists, and academics, of involvement in what it called an organization that threatens the country's security.
إلى 3 معتقلين خلال الأيام الثلاثة الماضية. وقال إن الاعتقالات شملت.
Emirati activist Mohammed al-Mansouri confirmed that 3 additional activists have been detained for political reasons in the past 3 days. He said the arrests include bloggers Ahmed Mansour and Fahad Salem al-Shehi, in addition to writer Nasser bin Raif. He added that Emirati authorities had confiscated al-Shehi's passport for 7 years to prevent him from traveling. And from Kuwait, Mohammed al-Dalal, a parliamentarian in the inactive Kuwaiti Assembly, condemned the latest arrest campaign by the Emirati authorities that targeted 40 Kuwaitis and accused them of working to threaten the security of the country.
مطالبا السلطات الإماراتية بالإفراج الفوري عن المعتقلين من دعاة الإصلاح ومن الحقوق.
Al-Dalal believed the arrest campaign does not have any legal or lawful justification and demanded the Emirati authorities immediately release the imprisoned reform advocates and rights activists. On the other hand, parliamentarian Jamen al-Harbash said the arrests of Emirati citizens strains the relationship between the ruler and the subject and cannot continue.
طالبت السلطات الإماراتية بالكشف عن مكان وأسباب اعتقال الناشط الحقوقي والمدون أحمد.
The arrest campaign in the Emirates pushed international human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch, to call on the Emirati authorities to reveal where the detained are held and the reason behind the arrest of rights activist and blogger Ahmed Mansour. Mansour is among a number of activists who presented a petition to the government last month calling on it to implement reforms. The director of the Middle East and North Africa Division of Human Rights Watch, Sarah Leah Whitson, said the arrest of Ahmed Mansour is aimed at intimidating and terrorizing others in the Emirates who may publicly call for democratic reforms. She added that while some countries in the region are discussing democratic reforms, the Emirati government is holding on to what she referred to as outdated, repressive methods.
A document submitted to the Israeli Supreme Court and prepared by Defense Minister Ehud Barak has come to light. It orders the demolition of 8 villages in Yatta's suburbs in southern Hebron, displacing its citizens under the pretext that the villages are on land needed for military training.
Here on the land of Khirbat Jimba, east of Yatta in southern Hebron, the residents are scared and worried for their land after Israel vowed to demolish the village and displace its people under the pretext that it is a vital region for the Israeli army's training.
الاحتلال هم هدفهم منها إنه قمعنا من هذه الأرض ومن شان يرحلونا.
The occupation's goal is to displace us Arabs because the army is pressuring us from the south under the excuse of training. The settlers pressure us from the north under the pretext that this land is theirs. The civil administration applies pressure on the village itself, handing us demolition orders. They are all one project, and their aim is to displace us.
يعني كلهم مشروع واحد إنهم حجتهم إنه الترحيل.
Jimba
is one of 8 villages in Yatta's suburbs, and one that Defense Minister Ehud Barak wants to demolish, according to a document presented by the Israeli military authorities to the so-called Israeli Supreme Court. The citizens who lived in the villages of Yatta's suburbs before this occupation existed assured they are connected to their land and are holding onto the land of their parents and grandparents. But the occupation tries to tighten the noose on these residents from time to time.
They affected our crops. It was at the beginning of the harvest, but their training completely destroyed it. No cattle were able to graze, and we were not able to harvest.
What else?
As you can see here, they disturb us at night.
Observers at human rights organizations describe this decision as a humanitarian disaster. It aims to demolish 8 villages and displace more than 1,500 citizens to seize vast areas of land. The occupation seeks to displace citizens from their land and seize those lands under weak excuses. This time, the claim is the need to hold military trainings here, while Israel preaches democracy and human rights to the world. Sari Al-Ur, Palestine TV, from the suburbs of Yatta in southern Hebron.
Iran has held Israel responsible for the suicide bombing that claimed the lives of 5 Israelis in Bulgaria. In a stormy session at the UN Security Council, Tehran and Tel Aviv exchanged blame over the attack.
This suicide bombing, which claimed the lives of 5 Israelis, took place a week ago in the Bulgarian city of Burgas. Israel quickly responded and officially accused Iran and Hezbollah of being behind the attack. Days later, the U.S. President's counterterrorism advisor visited Bulgaria and expressed concern over the terrorist activities of Iran and its Lebanese ally.
Hezbollah, as well as the activities of Iran.
During a press conference with his American guest, the Bulgarian foreign minister refused to point the finger at any side, saying that the investigation is ongoing. However, both sides continue to exchange blame, but this time it was at the UN Security Council.
18 years ago, a bomb
18 years ago, a bomb exploded in Argentina's Jewish center in Buenos Aires. Iran, in cooperation with Hezbollah, was responsible for this attack. Last week, a suicide bombing targeted Israeli tourists. This time, Iran and Hezbollah were also responsible.
In a direct response, Iran denied the accusation.
It's amazing that just few minutes after the
terrorist attack, Israel accused Iran. We have never and will not engage in such despicable acts. Such terrorist operations could only be planned and carried out by the same regime whose history is full of state terrorism operations and assassinations, aimed at implicating others for narrow political gains.
In Bulgaria, the coroner who examined the remains of the person the authorities say is the suicide bomber has unraveled more details. The medical examiner said the bomber has light skin but could be of Arab descent. The authorities said the suspect came from another European Union country. However, the EU said it would rather wait until the investigation is complete. This is the message that was conveyed to the Israeli foreign minister, Avigdor Lieberman, who met with EU officials in Brussels. Lieberman called for blacklisting Hezbollah as a terrorist organization. For its part, Bulgaria hopes to collect enough evidence to complete its investigation and close the case, which seems to cast its shadow beyond the border of this small country that has never witnessed this type of incident before. Mustafa Al-Manshawi, BBC.
Striking Iran before it's able to produce nuclear weapons would be far less dangerous than trying to knock out weapons of mass destruction once they are fully armed. This is the warning given by Defense Minister Ehud Barak last night as Israeli leaders are ratcheting up their rhetoric about what Israel might do if sanctions against the hardline Islamic Republic fail. R.A. O'Sullivan joins me now with more on the story. R.A.
That's right, Yochanan. Defense Minister Ehud Barak chose the graduation ceremony of the National Defense College last night to make a strong statement about Iran. He said the economic and diplomatic sanctions on Iran are not working and that the government may have to make difficult and crucial decisions about security, which is a hint that Israel may be poised to attack Iran. Barak said, "I am well aware of the difficulties involved in thwarting Iran's attempts to acquire nuclear weapons. However, it is clear to me that without a doubt, dealing with the threat itself will be far more complicated, far more dangerous, and far more costly in resources and human life." Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the graduates with a recorded message saying Israel would do everything it could to prevent Iran from getting the bomb. The foreign media have picked up on their remarks, and they are being widely circulated today. Meanwhile, Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has announced that Iran has increased the number of active centrifuges enriching uranium for its nuclear program by 1,000 since May. This is despite the UN Security Council's demand for Iran to halt all uranium enrichment programs.
The widows of 2 Israeli Olympians murdered by Palestinian gunmen at the 1972 Munich Olympics are urging spectators to stage a silent memorial during tomorrow's opening ceremony of the London Games. This after the International Olympic Committee rejected a worldwide campaign calling on the IOC to officially remember the athletes. IBA's Eli Wagalanter has more.
Ilana Romano and Anki Spitzer, widows of 2 of the Israeli Olympians killed by Black September terrorists at the 1972 Munich Olympics, are asking spectators attending the opening of the Games tomorrow night in London to do what the International Olympic Committee won't do: recognize and remember the Israeli delegation to the Munich Games.
But we do ask all the people who are going to be in the stadium, of course we cannot reach them personally, if Chachoror is going to speak, for them to get up and silently stand for a minute, quietly, and that will be, for us, a victory. Even if it is not going to be 80,000 people in the stadium, but even if it is only 1 person, we feel that we already made progress.
Spitzer's plea for the fans to stand for a spontaneous minute of silence when IOC President Jacques Rogas begins to speak is, at this point, her only recourse. A worldwide campaign for official recognition, including a petition with 106,000 signatures presented to Roga on Tuesday, has been rebuffed outright by the IOC president.
We feel that the opening ceremony is an atmosphere that is not fit to remember such a tragic incident.
Pakistan forcibly stops U.S.-led forces supply trucks from crossing the border into Afghanistan. Security concerns led security officials to close the route as a temporary measure. The incident on Tuesday involved gunmen attacking a convoy of foreign forces supply trucks and killing a driver. The closure will pose a burden to U.S.-led NATO supply trucks heading to U.S.-led forces in Afghanistan. An unmanned U.S. plane in Afghanistan crash lands in northern Kunduz province, whereas in Wardak Province, a convoy of foreign and Afghan forces are attacked by Taliban militants. However, it is unknown to the true cause of these incidents. Our correspondent is in Kabul and tells us more about these incidents.
The Afghan officials are telling us that this drone crashed because of technical problems, but the Taliban spokesperson is saying they brought it down in Kunduz province. Over the past 6 months, I can tell you that a large number of U.S. drones have either crashed or brought down by the Taliban militants. And it's a big challenge now for the U.S. military in Afghanistan, because they're saying that drone operations are part of their major mission in Afghanistan. Most of these drones are used by the U.S. soldiers from their military bases, are operated to attack Pakistani tribal areas. But here in Afghanistan, these U.S. drone operations also caused civilian casualties. And now, about the second attack that took place now in Maidan Wardak, in central province of Afghanistan, a large number of U.S. forces and Afghan forces were on their way to Maidan Shar when their convoys came under attack by the Taliban militants and heavy gunfiring erupted. The U.S. forces have also called in air support. The gunfiring is still underway in that part of this country, and the Afghan authorities are telling us that the number of casualties is still not known. The number of NATO casualties has undoubtedly risen over the past several months in Afghanistan.
In Tunisia, dozens of protesters have attacked provincial government headquarters in Sidi Bouzid, the city where the revolution was born. The protesters took to the streets, angry at their living conditions. They set a tire on fire and threw it inside the government building. Police responded by firing warning shots and tear gas as demonstrators chanted, "Ben Ali's police are back." Last year, the Tunisian revolution led to the ouster of former President Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali and sparked a whole series of uprisings and revolutions across the Middle East and North Africa.
Tunisian civil associations approved what was called Tunisia's Covenant for Rights and Freedoms, marking the 55th anniversary of the establishment of the Republic of Tunisia after it gained independence. These associations called on the Constituent Assembly to guarantee the aforementioned covenant's announced principles in the new constitution, to guarantee basic rights and freedoms for which the Tunisian Revolution was ignited.
Civil associations in Tunisia are keen not to leave the issue of human rights in the hands of politicians and to keep it at bay from any political and ideological manipulation. This is highlighted in Tunisia's Covenant for Rights and Freedoms that was approved by a large number of organizations that are hoping for the Constituent Assembly to adopt it as a moral and ethical binding thread for all civil and political parties, and as a document to accompany the Constitution.
The message is that civil associations are doing their part to preserve freedoms and rights because they are the common denominator between all classes of society. Preserving them is in everyone's favor, today and for future generations.
Tunisia's Covenant on Economic and Social Rights inspired Tunisia's General Labor Union to participate in the process. Its leaders believe the union is able to fulfill the Covenant's most important goals, such as dialogue between all components of the society over the humanitarian common denominators, and widely spread the culture of human rights, seen as a victory for basic freedoms.
انتصار لمبدأ الحريات العامة والفردية واللي
It is a victory for the principle of public and individual freedoms, which are a major part of the Covenant, which not only covered the civil aspects of these rights, but also included economic and social rights.
شمل أيضا الحقوق الاقتصادية والاجتماعية.
Representatives include lawyers, journalists, and women who also approve the Covenant and aim to transition from defending partial rights to full rights, which would benefit everyone once approved by a comprehensive body.
The project was specific to women's rights because, unfortunately, women's rights are often placed on a shelf and women are classified as second-class citizens. So the solution is for human rights to be a complete entity that cannot be segmented.
There is no use for the revolution or for the Republic on its 55th anniversary without the ability to guarantee rights and freedoms, and this is what the activists are advocating for in a unified voice. They will not rest, as their initiative shows, until the new constitution recognizes basic public and individual freedoms.
The Syrian regime's army has regained control of Damascus as clashes continue in Aleppo. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said the opposition has started to expand its control over broader areas.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has issued a decree establishing a court specialized in terror cases in Damascus. Meanwhile, clashes continued to rage between regime forces and opposition groups in some neighborhoods in the city of Aleppo and its countryside. Agence France Presse quoted a security source saying the regime's army is preparing to launch an imminent wide-scale attack on Aleppo. The regime's army has regained control of the capital, Damascus. Syrian TV said the appropriate authorities stormed an armed group's hideout in the village of al-Dahireya in the countryside of al-Qamishli in al-Hasaka province, where they arrested the group members and seized their weapons. Politically, the Syrian Foreign Ministry said the defected Syria ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Abdul Latif al-Tabagh, has been relieved of his duty. The ministry further said that its envoy to Cyprus, Lamia Hariri, is not an ambassador but a diplomat who has been running the Syrian embassy until an ambassador would have been appointed. In addition, the ministry said its security attaché in the Sultanate of Oman, Mohammed Tahsin al-Faqir, does not hold any diplomatic or security status. During a press conference before leaving for London, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that President al-Assad and his close aides are close to leaving.
Al-Assad and his inner circle are about to leave, and preparations are underway for a new era.
Hervé Latsou, assistant to the UN Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations, discussed the UN observers' mission with the Syrian National Reconciliation Minister Ali Haidar.
I hold members of the UN Security Council responsible. They don't rely on the observers' reports, even though they were the ones who deployed them.
During a press conference with his Turkish counterpart, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that his country is ready to send Russian observers to Syria.
The UN decided to reduce the number of observers in Syria. My country is ready to send observers to Damascus.
For his part, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged the international community to learn from the mistakes made in Bosnia to prevent a repeat of those mistakes in Syria.
I don't want to see any of my successors visiting Syria in 20 years and apologizing for what we could have done now to protect civilians there.
Ban Ki-moon also stressed the importance of mobilizing the international community to find a solution to the Syrian crisis.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincoat Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.